This podcast is made possible by the listener members of Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's January 12th, 2026, and this is one of the last days for a structure that holds a special place in the heart of many girls and women who grew up scouting in Middle Tennessee. The Girl Scouts of Middle Tennessee have two camp facilities, and the bigger of the two, Camp Sycamore Hills, was evidently built on the grounds of an old dairy farm. When the Scouts moved in back in the 1950s, they kept the original barn. And for the roughly 70 years since, it's been a place for girls to run around, do activities, pose for photos, slide down the old metal fire escape tube. But old wooden structures don't last forever. It's been decided that the barn can't really be maintained anymore, and so for safety reasons, it will have to come down. This weekend, the Girl Scouts are hosting a chance for folks to pay one last visit to the old red barn. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. On the Girl Scouts of Middle Tennessee Facebook page, women have been sharing photos and memories of their time at Camp Sycamore Hills. There are lots of shots of that slide, of course, but also groups standing in the hayloft, all geared up to rappel out of an upstairs window, getting kitted out with fishing poles while standing in front of the barn, posing for group photos of their troop at the end of a special weekend. You can almost hear the giggles and squeals of young kids having the time of their life. Now, I've never been to Camp Sycamore Hills, but about a year ago, I visited the state park next door to the church camp I always attended, and since we were always bussed over to the state park to swim in the afternoons, it really took me back. One glimpse of that old pool area, and I remembered exactly what it felt like to wait in line for the high dive and then work up the nerve to actually jump off of it. A memory on its own is great, but being in the actual place tied to that memory makes it all the more visceral. And there was something particularly poignant about being able to visit a site tangentially related to my religious upbringing because the church I grew up in left the building I knew years ago. It's been repurposed now, an office space for MTSU. I have to assume the interior has been completely reworked. So I can never go back. Not really. I think about that whenever I see historic preservation grants for old churches. I know sometimes people look at those and say, well, if the congregation can't keep things going well enough to take care of the building, why bother? But those places hold particularly special moments in people's personal histories, regardless of whether worship is still going on there. They played host to weddings where families were joined together in life-changing ways, and funerals where communities gathered to hold each other close in their grief. And for so many of the other pivotal moments in a community's life, another kind of structure has long played a central role. Tennessee's historic courthouses hold the memories of generations' worth of conflicts hashed out at trial or communities pulling together for civic projects, especially back in earlier decades when everything official had to be done in person, when the courthouses truly housed all of the most important parts of a local government, and when the courthouse was generally the centerpiece of a county's main commercial district. Through the years, they've been home to protests, festivals, sometimes even farmers markets, and park benches where old guys would sit around and whittle wood while shooting the breeze. When my husband and I drive through the state, whenever we have time, we like to take the state highways instead of interstates. And we always like to stop at courthouse squares to walk around and see what's there. There are certain monuments that all of them tend to have, and there's definitely a couple of architectural styles that show up again and again. Even so, every courthouse manages to have its own character. Some of them show very clearly that wealth used to be settled in different parts of the state than it is now. Greenville, Fayetteville, Pulaski, Columbia, there's all towns where walking around the courthouse, looking at the scale of that building and the materials used in the historic structures surrounding them, I've really been blown away to realize just how much money must have been flowing through those communities in the 19th century. The buildings whisper the stories that people rarely think to tell anymore. Last week, the state's Department of Economic and Community Development announced that it has awarded grants to help preserve historic courthouses around Tennessee. Counties could ask for up to $500,000 to shore up their courthouses, provided the structure is either on the National Register of Historic Places or meets the conditions to possibly earn a listing on the register. The other big requirement was that the county has to fall into one of the categories ECD has for communities that want or need a little extra help. Either they're economically struggling, or they're making a concerted effort to make sure their traditional downtown area isn't thoroughly eclipsed by cookie-cutter sprawl. 11 of the state's 96 counties qualified for the Courthouse Preservation Grant, with most of them earning the full amount. In Middle Tennessee, that includes money to rehabilitate the courthouses in Dixon, Giles, Murray, Lawrence, and Pickett counties. In just a few minutes, getting the care you need during this intense flu season. That's coming up after the newscast.
Are you proud to listen to Nashville Public Radio? You should be, and here's one reason. The local journalism you depend on, it truly is as good as it gets in the world of public radio. WPLN and WNXP stories have recently won regional and national honors for our music journalism, education reporting, the deep interviewing on This Is Nashville, and our in-depth podcasts. When you tune in, you're hearing your neighbors, and they're some of the best journalists in the nation.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. A man was shot and killed by a park ranger in Natchez Trace State Park this weekend. Officials say 26-year-old Bradley Condor stole a park ranger's car, then got out and stole another state vehicle. The park ranger said the man used the second vehicle to drive toward law enforcement, who then shot and killed him. The incident is currently under investigation by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. State lawmakers will reconvene in Nashville tomorrow to continue Tennessee's 114th General Assembly. WPLN's Mariana Bacallao reports immigration and the governor's school voucher program will still be priorities after dominating last year's regular and special sessions.
This time last year, Governor Bill Lee called a special session to pass a sweeping immigration bill and establish a statewide school voucher program. While those measures have drawn criticism and legal challenges, lawmakers are looking to build on both. Amid a difficult budget year, Republican leadership hopes to expand the number of vouchers offered to families, on top of a yearly expansion built into the original bill. Lawmakers also filed a flurry of bills after last summer's ICE raids. Democrats want to bar ICE agents from hiding their identity, while Republicans want to make it a felony to dox agents. And a controversial bill that would deny K-12 students in education based on their legal status is back this year. The measure stalled last year over concerns it could jeopardize the state's federal education funding. Mariana Bacallao, WPLN News.
If Democrat Afton Bain wants to run for Congress again, new campaign finance reports show she has considerable cash for it. Last month, Bain lost a closely watched race for an open congressional seat to Republican Matt Van Epps. The Nashville Scene reports the latest filings show Van Epps spent nearly all his funds. But Bain, whose campaign raised more than $3 million, still has some $465,000 socked away. Bain hasn't said if she'll run again this year or which seat she'd go after. One possibility is the district that includes her home in East Nashville. The incumbent representative there, John Rose, has plans to run for governor this year. Tennessee employers added more than 7,000 jobs in November. The biggest gains were in private education, healthcare, and waste services. The State Department of Labor and Workforce Development gathered the unemployment data from 87 counties. Of those, more than half recorded unemployment rates below 4%. Williamson County had the lowest, with Rutherford, Sumner, Dixon, and Davidson counties also in the top 10. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics considers anything under 5% to be healthy and near full employment. Meanwhile, a new report by the Boyd Center for Business and Economic Research predicts that the state's economy will continue to grow, but slowly. That's due to trade disputes and tariffs. In winter, state officials say there are 70% more residential fire deaths than in other seasons, and 1 in 5 house fire deaths are caused by smoking and cooking. If you need a smoke alarm, Tennessee's Department of Commerce and Insurance says you can visit their website or contact your local fire department. In the meantime, keep flammable items like blankets and rugs several feet away from space heaters. Burn only dry, seasoned wood in fireplaces and wood stoves. Never bring garbage or use your oven to heat your home. And turn off portable heaters when you leave a room or go to bed. Well, new buses are coming to Nashville. Last week, Mayor Freddie O'Connell unveiled 12 vehicles that will be added to the fleet. Over the next decade, WeGo hopes to add 100 buses to go with expansions passed in the Choose How You Move program, passed by voters in 2024. The buses are paid for by that program, which increased the sales tax by 0.5% last year. Over the next decade, it will take in $8 million to be used for public transportation. Over the last several years, state lawmakers have made their position on drag shows and performers very clear, restricting where female and male impersonators can perform. With the state legislature back in session this week, This is Nashville host Blake Farmer asked guest Benjamin Slinkard, also known as drag performer Kennedy Ann Scott, whether or not their actions ever made him consider leaving Nashville.
No, this is my home. I've created a family here with my friends. I am part of the community. I put my heart and soul into my work as a teacher. I put my heart and soul into not only the Nashville community, but the queer community here. And I shouldn't have to pick up and move myself just to feel okay.
Ben Slinkard is also the 2022 Mayworth Shane Elementary School Teacher of the Year. And you can hear more from that conversation at noon on our daily show, This is Nashville. And after that airs, that conversation will also show up in the This is Nashville podcast feed. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. We're in peak winter cold and flu season. If you feel under the weather, how do you know when it's time to see a doctor? Reporters Kara Anthony and Blake Farmer with our new Health Q project have more.
Hey, Blake, look, we're both parents, and personally, it seems like I'm always taking my daughter to the doctor. But I'll be honest, when it comes to me, I'm less likely to go.
I'm the same way. My go-to is to tough it out.
Me too, but I also rely on my unofficial snot theory.
You have a snot theory?
Yes, I'll explain. If me or my daughter, if we have clear snot, I assume that we're fine. Yellow, just like a stoplight, it means use caution. And green means go to the doctor now.
Is that real, though?
No. This is not medical advice, I have to say that. But the point is, it's not always easy to know when you need to go see the doctor.
It's why we gave ourselves this assignment to find out when a cold or flu is bad enough to go get some help.
So what did you learn?
So I talked to Dr. Matt Rosenberg, a primary care physician in Michigan. This time of year, he sees a lot of patients who expect antibiotics to make them feel better. And the problem is they usually don't work on runny noses, coughs, and fevers.
When we look at the data, like 80-90% of these things are not bacterial. They're allergies and they're viruses. And, we don't have a lot of great treatments for viruses.
Most of the time, he's going to recommend over-the-counter meds, and your immune system does the rest.
So is it even worth it to go?
It's never bad to see a provider when you are not feeling well, but being worth it is a judgment call. They can reassure you, direct you to the best medicine you need. If you really need antibiotics, they can write a prescription. And if you test positive for the flu, even at home, your doctor can prescribe Tamiflu, though you do have to start that early.
And I found out that where you go for care really matters. Every winter, a lot of people end up going to emergency departments for respiratory illnesses. But if you have typical symptoms, going to the ER is going to take way more time and money than going to your doctor or an urgent care.
So when is the right time to go to an ER?
I spoke to Dr. Milner Staub. She's a physician at Vanderbilt University Medical Center who specializes in infectious disease.
I think there's three major symptoms, right? So shortness of breath to the point that they're distressed. They're sweating, they're using extra muscles to get breath. And then either severe, unresponsive to pain med, headache, or chest pain.
To say it again, if you're having a really hard time breathing, a severe headache, or chest pain, get to the ER.
The question is, has any of this changed your mind about what you're going to do the next time you're sick?
Not really, but I feel more informed. What about you?
Well, it's good to know the symptoms to take seriously, but I am putting more stock in something else Dr. Rosenberg said. The best thing we can do is taking care of ourselves. Eat well, exercise, get fresh air, even in the cold, goes a long way.
And I've got to give a shout out for the classics. Wash your hands and get your flu shot.
Oh, I gotta be better about washing my hands.
That's Blake Farmer and Kara Anthony of Health Q, approachable guides to an unapproachable healthcare system from WPLN and KFF Health News. We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday, so subscribe in your favorite podcasting app to make sure you never miss an episode. And if you like this, you'll probably enjoy the Nashvillager newsletter, too. They get perspective from more of my colleagues at Nashville Public Radio and links to the stories we're following. Sign up for those daily emails at WPLN.org/Nashvillager. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.